Welcome to part 3 of Competency 9. In this video, we will answer questions relating to inverse trigonometric functions. In this video, we will refer to the unit circle and the derivation of certain trig values such as sine, cosine, tangent, cotangent, and therefore. If you're not familiar with these things, stop the video. You can take a screenshot of this. Maybe go look for your notes and look up some resources. Number 1, which trigonometric ratios are undefined when applied to 270 degrees? Okay. Undefined would be a vertical line. Okay. And if you're thinking of the axis, or the unit circle rather, too, the y-axis would be the undefined axis, okay? And we should, or you should associate these with pi over 2 or the 90 degrees, okay? And then that would be for sine. Now, sine and cosine are identified, okay? And they're saying 270 degrees. I'm sorry. So they're not talking about 90. So what they are referring to is 270 degrees is here, okay? And you can put each of those in the calculator. But I know right now that sine and cosine have a value. It's either going to be 90 degrees, 270 degrees, or 0. Okay, so sine and cosine are valid. Now, we only have, okay, in any of those values that is like 1 over cosine, secant, cosecant, but that leaves tangent and cotangent. And let's put it in the calculator and test what I'm saying, okay? So let's do our tangent, right? Tangent 270. You know what? I say that, but I need to make sure I'm in degree mode because and I am. Oh, thank goodness. Check that you're in degree mode, okay? Because I was doing other things and I just simply couldn't remember. Okay, so let's push enter and see you get an error. Okay. And it says check your mode. Well, I've already checked my mode. Okay. The issue is that it is undefined because we have a vertical axis. It just is what it is. Okay. Now, and if we did 1 over tangent 270, we would get the same thing. Okay. But here, so the only option that before I move on with it, what I was going to say, the only option we have then would be C. However, we need to look at the other so we can prove it to ourselves, okay? All right, so anything to do with tangent, cotangent, we just checked. So now we need sine 270, and that should be -1. Let's push enter, and it is, okay? So that's not going to change if we have 1 over cosine, okay? So that's cosecant, that's not going to matter. So obviously that isn't. So anything with sine is valid, so it's defined, and we're looking for undefined. So if we put in cosine, let's do 270, 0. So it is defined, okay? So that means that it has to be C, okay? You always use your calculator to check. I mean, I do know the rules and I saw it right away, but check with your calculator. Make sure your thinking is correct. Okay, let's go to number 2. And it says, to the nearest degree, and we are in degree modes, what are the values of cosecant inverse negative 11 over 10. Okay, so what is related? What other trig function, basic trig function, is related to cosecant? Well, that would be sine. So this is what you do. You take sine inverse and simply use the reciprocal of that fraction. So that would be 10 over 11. So let's put that in our calculator and see what we get. Now, we also have to keep in mind the quadrants. And let's get this value first and then discuss that. What are we really looking for in those quadrants? And you know what? I'm going to move back down so we can use this uh, blank coordinate grid here we have, okay? So let's do that. Let's see. Second, see where sine is? The sine inverse is right above it, okay? And it says we need to put in negative 10 divided by 11, okay? Push enter, and there's our degree. Now, take in mind that it says negative, okay? So it is a negative sign. So which quadrants do you get a negative sign, anything associated with the negative sign? Well, that would be the last video we were watching. That would be Q3 and Q4 for sine, because that's when the y's are negative, okay? So this tells me that we are either going to go from 360 degrees, subtract minus 60. We're going to have to subtract the 65 degrees, or we will go from the value of 180 and add on the 65 degrees. Here, we're kind of going backwards, and we're actually subtracting the degrees, okay? And we don't have, let's say, restriction. They're asking for either of those measures. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, 360 minus the 65, 295. Anything that does not have 295, we're going to get rid of. Okay. All right, so it has to have 295. Well, I'm going to disagree with A because they just left the 65 in there. Okay, I guess if we were in quadrant 1, that would make sense, but that would be an error in the applicate. I mean, that would just show that we didn't know the properties. We weren't well versed in that. Okay, so let's do 180 plus the 65, 245. So yes, absolutely. Option D is correct. So you can see in answering some of these questions, although basic, now on a university test, I've seen this come up. Maybe not with the state of Texas, but if you're trying to pass the university's test, they want to check to see if you are at least familiar with certain properties, and this would be one of them. Okay, so let's look at number 3. Okay, to the nearest degree, what is the value of cosine, inverse cosine of 0.14? Okay, we just pop that calculator. Again, very simple, but that's the thing. Either you know how to calculate it on your own by hand, which can be done, or you know what to do with your calculator. My thing for our videos is you need to know what to do with your calculator. Okay, so we go second cosine, and that gets us our inverse, okay? And we need 0.14, close parentheses, enter, and that gets us a degree of rounding. It says to the nearest degree, so that gives us B 82, which is correct. Okay. All right, now, let's look at number 4. To the nearest degree, what are the values of negative, inverse cosine, sorry, not negative, but inverse cosine minus 1.556. Okay, so what you're going to do is what we did above for number 2. Instead, you'll use tangent and use the inverse here. And you'll use 1 minus 1 over 1.56. So let me pop that in the calculator, okay? So we'll just go ahead and say secant tangent, and then 1 divided by, oh, we could put the negative. No, I don't like doing that. Sometimes that gives me an error. Negative 1 divided by 1.56. And then I put the negative on the numerator just for order of operation safety's sake. I don't know why, but there's a couple of places where it's giving me a hard time, and I'd rather that not happen right now. Okay, let's push enter. And that is 32. If we round, we can round to 33. Now listen, it says tangent, well, cotangent, which is related to tangent. And we need to think of our quadrants. Always stop and think. Don't just jump on the first answer. And they're asking for 2 values anyway. Okay. And our calculator spits out a negative. So where would tangent be negative? Well, it has to be in Q2 or Q4, where we only have one of either cosine or sine negative. Okay. So what does this mean? This means that you are going to either go this direction and subtract the 33. Okay, so that would be 360 minus the 33. Or you have to go from the 80 and go the other direction and say 180 minus the 33. Okay. All right, so you don't always add to 180. Sometimes you have to subtract, okay? Now you will always subtract from 360, okay? All right, 360. Well, I don't know about that. That statement, there's been a couple times where I managed to finagle it, but it really wasn't uh, uh, regarded as the best mathematics, but I knew what I was doing. So let's think of it as we need to subtract. Okay, so let's see. Minus 33 degrees gives us the 327. So I have only one item with 327. And we know that 30 degrees is not an option because that would be in quadrant 1, and Q1 is been eliminated as a possibility. So because they're positive, so we can't use those. Okay. Now, the same could be said about 213. Okay, that would not be a possibility. So let's take that 180 minus the 33, and of course we get the 147. So A is our option. Okay, and this is not a possibility. I mean, yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, well, I just did the wrong thing. I was looking for, just realized what I did. Okay, I needed to mark out. Sorry about that. We needed to mark out this because it would be in quadrant 3. So that means all of A is gone and we keep B. Oh my gosh, I have to pay attention to what I'm doing. All right, let's go to number 5. Number 5, which trigonometric ratios are undefined when applied to pi over 2? And we've given you the unit circle so you have an idea of which one of these that might be, and anything on this line here. Okay. Regardless, we have a calculator. We're going to use it. Okay. So we have sine. We're going with A first, and then alpha y equals, and then we need secant caret up, go down to, I like to close my parentheses, and number 1. That is defined. So anything with sine of pi over 2 or 90 degrees, mark it out. So that gets rid of A and D. Now we need to try tangent. Okay, tangent alpha y equals number 1, that same process. Second, carry it up, go to 2, go over, close your parentheses. That is undefined. It'll say domain, error domain. Okay. So that tells me that, well, tangent's good. Now, what about cosine and cotangent? Well, if tangent's undefined, I'm thinking that cotangent is also undefined because they're simply reciprocals. But let's go second mode and test our cosine, okay, just in case, which you should already know that that's 0, okay, by looking, if you know anything about this. But it doesn't matter. You're taking a test. You get nervous and frustrated, and you probably won't have this image over here that tells you what the degrees and radians are. So don't worry about it. So alpha y equals number 1, and then remember second caret up, go down to, I'm going to close it, enter, and it's 0. Therefore, it is defined. So I was correct in saying it was C. All right, let's go to number 6. What is the exact value of cosecant 1 pi over 4? Sorry about that. Okay, so obviously that's not on our calculator. So let me clear out my buttons. Okay, remember you can always rewind to get those. Okay, so what I need is, for this situation, you're actually going to have to remember that would be the reciprocal of sine. Okay, so you will have, this would be equal to 1 over sine of the theta. Okay, so this would be our theta. So I need negative pi over, if I could pretend like you know that that's pi. Now let's pop all this in the calculator and see what comes out, and then we can make some executive decisions on our options, okay? All right, so alpha y equals, here we go. We want 1 here, go down, and sine, okay, and I need a negative, and alpha y equals, if I could push enter, oh, okay. For some reason, I had a lag. Okay, second, carry it up, go down. This time we need 4. Go over, close my parentheses. Okay, first, you see, this is the right thing. We've got the right thing typed in. However, it's negative. So that tells me B's out. All right, now, that is -1 plus some more. Now, if you look at A, we can already see that the square root of 2 divided by 2, that's going to be, it's going to be a lot less. It's going to be more than -1/2, but it's still less than 1. Okay, but we can check it out. So go through the motions here again. Now I need a second radical. There's 2, enter. See, it is. It's not even, if you look at it in decimal value, it's not even close. Okay. Not close enough for us. Now, look at C. That's 2 times some more negative. That's going to be more negative than -2. So that's definitely not our value, but we can pop it in the calculator. It doesn't take but a second to do these, to double check while you're testing. Yes. So the only one we have left is D, and it should match what we have above. So negative square root, put in my 2, enter. There we go. It is the same value. Okay, remember, if you can't remember every little thing about sine, cosine, tangent, cotangent, in your unit circle comparisons of polar and radian and rectangular, it's okay. You can look at your calculator and get your brain going and start pushing some buttons, okay? I'm going to talking about buttons, I'm going to clear them out again, and I'm going to clear here. Okay, so let's go up and give these others a look. All right, so 7 says, what is the exact value of inverse cosine 0? Okay, well, you should know a few things about sine and cosine, but let's say you don't. Okay, here to tell you that A doesn't make sense. Okay, but let's put in the calculator. Okay, so second inverse cosine 0. Okay, you should already know what that is, but I do know that 2 divided by pi is is less than because of the pi. Think about if you rounded it to 3, 2 over 3 is 2/3, that's 0.666. So there's no way A's it. That's why I said A just simply didn't make sense. So let's get rid of A. B's negative. So now we're down to C and D. D's just simply pi. And you know that pi is 3.14 something, something, something. So that's not what we have on our calculator. So I can get rid of that. So yeah, you should have recognized it, but that's okay. You know what we can do? We can just do the on the flip side, right? So go cosine, and for you know, you don't have to set it up in a fraction. I mean, I always do. I always do the y equals, but you could just divide out pi divided by 2. Whatever you want to do. You're the one taking the test. So second pi, go down to, it's all up to you. It's 0. If we start at 0, we should end up at 0. So there you go. Okay. All right. C's the option. Now let's look at number 8. What is the value of inverse cotangent square root of 3? Okay. Now we can use tangent. Okay. Now be careful. It's not the same idea as number 6. Okay. All right. Because of the inverse. Notice number 6 didn't have an inverse, so we had to just simply use the reciprocal of the related value. And we know that cotangent and tangent cotangent are related. But for this one, it's even simpler. For this one, we can use the inverse of tangent. But when we do this, we have to invert the square root of 3. 1 over square root of 3. We have to use a reciprocal here. Okay, so let's do this. So alpha tangent. I'm going to set up that fraction like I always do. Remember, this takes a few more steps to do this. So don't always do it. Just divide out. For me, I'm just doing teaching's sake. Okay. As I was yakking, did I enter it right? Yes, I did. So now I push enter. Okay, I know that it's positive. Oh my goodness gracious, but which one of these would be it? It's a little bit more than a half. Well, I'm gonna disagree with this. C. And it's it's kind of hard to see, but if you round to 3, 3 over 3, you know what? I'm thinking B's it. Because if you round pi to 3 and then you simplify, that's going to be about a half, actually a little more. But we can put this in the calculator and just try it out. And we can do some capturing to get this done. Okay, so alpha, y equals number 1. All right, so second pi, go down, type in 3. Not it. Go up, capture, arrow over, and now I want a 6. That's it. Okay, B is correct. Now I can go, which I know it's wrong, but go back up and capture again. And then, as you notice, what I'm doing is a type over. Be careful with type overs, though. Make sure you type them in correctly. Make sure you're typing over what you want to type over. Okay, then enter. And of course, it's incorrect. All right, so we have verified that. Okay, this is the last question in this particular video. I hope it was helpful. And thank you guys for liking, subscribing, and sharing our videos. Happy testing.